The crystal chandeliers cast diamond patterns across the marble floor of the Grand Sterling Hotel. Tonight's charity gala attracted the wealthiest families in the city, all dressed in designer gowns and tailored suits. Waiters glided between guests carrying champagne flutes on silver trays. Malcolm Reed stood near the auction table, examining a painting while sipping sparkling water. His simple black suit fit perfectly, though it cost less than most watches in the room. Nobody recognized him. That was exactly how he preferred it. Victoria Hayes swept through the crowd like she owned the building. Her emerald dress probably cost more than a car, and diamonds dripped from her neck and wrists. She laughed too loudly at her friend's joke, one glass tilting dangerously in her hand. Her husband Richard trailed behind, shaking hands and making connections. The Hayes family had built their fortune in real estate, but everyone knew they needed fresh capital. Big capital. Malcolm moved toward the refreshment table, quietly observing the room. He noticed everything. The fake smiles, the calculated conversations, the desperate networking. A waiter accidentally bumped into Victoria as she turned sharply. Her wine glass tipped forward, and dark red liquid splashed across her dress. She gasped, fury flashing in her eyes. But the liquid had barely touched her. Most of it had spilled on the floor. Victoria's face twisted with rage. She looked at the waiter, then at Malcolm standing 3 feet away. Something cruel sparked in her expression. Without warning, she threw the remaining wine directly at Malcolm. The liquid hit his face and chest, staining his white shirt crimson. The room fell silent. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Every head turned. "How dare you stand so close to me?" Victoria shrieked, pointing at Malcolm. "You people need to learn your place. This event is for distinguished guests, not your kind. Security should have stopped you at the door." Malcolm stood perfectly still. Wine dripped from his chin onto his ruined shirt. He slowly pulled a handkerchief from his pocket and wiped his face. His expression remained calm, almost serene. He looked directly into Victoria's eyes, and she saw something there that made her hesitate. It was not anger. It was disappointment. And something else. Something that looked like recognition. "My kind," Malcolm said softly, his voice carrying across the silent ballroom. "And what kind would that be, Mrs. Hayes?" Victoria's face flushed. "Don't play stupid with me. You clearly snuck in here. Someone call security." Richard Hayes pushed through the crowd, his face pale. He had been across the room making a phone call. He saw his wife, saw Malcolm, saw the wine stains. Then he saw Malcolm's face clearly for the first time tonight. Richard's eyes went wide. His mouth opened but no sound came out. The color drained completely from his cheeks. "Victoria," Richard whispered urgently, grabbing her arm. "Victoria, stop talking. Right now. Don't tell me to stop." She snapped. "This man, that man is Malcolm Reed," Richard said, his voice shaking. "He's the CEO of Reed Global Investments." The room erupted in shocked murmurs. Phones appeared in hands. Camera flashes started popping. Victoria's face went from red to white in seconds. Her wine glass slipped from her fingers and shattered on the marble floor. The sound echoed like a gunshot. Malcolm dabbed at his shirt one more time, then folded the handkerchief carefully and returned it to his pocket. He looked at Richard, then at Victoria, then at the crowd of frozen faces staring at him. He had built his company from nothing, working 3 jobs while putting himself through business school. He had faced racism before. He had faced it his entire life. But tonight was different. Tonight, he had the power to do something about it. "Mr. Hayes," Malcolm said calmly, "I believe we had a meeting scheduled for tomorrow morning. 9 o'clock. To finalize the $1.5 billion investment in Hayes Properties." Richard nodded frantically. Yes, Mr. Reed. Everything is ready. The contracts are prepared. The board is head, Malcolm interrupted gently. We had a meeting scheduled. The room went silent again. Richard's face collapsed. He understood immediately. Victoria looked between them, confusion mixing with growing horror as she began to comprehend what she had done. What she had destroyed. Mr. Reed, please, Richard said, his voice breaking. My wife didn't know who you were. She made a terrible mistake. A terrible, inexcusable mistake. But the deal. Hundreds of jobs depend on this investment. Families. Communities. Malcolm tilted his head slightly. Your wife knew exactly what she was doing, Mr. Hayes. She looked at my skin and decided I did not belong here. She saw a black man in a room full of wealthy white people and assumed I was inferior. That I had somehow tricked my way inside. Victoria found her voice, though it came out strangled. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean you meant every word, Malcolm said, cutting through her excuses like a blade. And I believe you. I believe that when you see someone who looks like me, your first instinct is contempt. Your first reaction is to put them in their place. That tells me everything I need to know about your character. And about what kind of people would lead a company I might invest in. The crowd pressed closer, sensing something historic unfolding. This was not just business. This was justice happening in real time. Richard fell to his knees, actually fell to his knees, on the marble floor. Guests gasped. A man worth hundreds of millions, begging. Please, Mr. Reed. I'll do anything. Victoria will issue a public apology. We'll make donations. We'll step down from the company leadership if that's what you want. Just please don't cancel the deal. Malcolm looked down at Richard for a long moment. He thought about his grandmother, who had cleaned houses for families like the Hayes. He thought about his father, who had been passed over for promotions his entire career despite being the most qualified. He thought about every time he had been followed in stores, questioned by police, assumed to be less than what he was. Stand up, Mr. Hayes, Malcolm said quietly. Have some dignity. Richard stood slowly, hope flickering in his eyes. Malcolm pulled out his phone and made a call. James. It's Malcolm. Cancel the Hayes Properties deal. Immediately. Transfer those funds to the community development initiative we discussed. Yes, all 1.5 billion. I want it in schools, small business grants, and affordable housing in underserved neighborhoods. People who actually need it. People who will use it to lift others up, not tear them down. He ended the call and looked at the crowd. Every face was locked on him. Some looked ashamed. Others looked thoughtful. A few looked angry. He did not care about any of them. This gala is supposedly for charity, Malcolm said, his voice ringing clear. For helping people. But I look around this room and I see people who hoard wealth, who judge others by their appearance, who use charity as a social event rather than a moral obligation. Real change does not happen in ballrooms. It happens in communities. It happens when people with power choose justice over profit. Victoria sobbed openly now, mascara running down her face. Richard stood frozen, his entire empire crumbling around him. The media representatives in attendance typed furiously on their phones. By morning, this story would be everywhere. Malcolm walked toward the exit, the crowd parting before him like water. At the door, he paused and turned back. I came here tonight because I was invited. Because I wanted to believe that people like you could change. That wealth and education might bring wisdom and compassion. Your wife taught me otherwise, Mr. Hayes. And for that lesson, I suppose I should thank her. He walked out into the night, leaving chaos behind him. His shirt was still stained with wine, but he walked with his head high. Outside, the city lights sparkled. Somewhere out there, kids who looked like him were studying late, working hard, dreaming big. Tomorrow, those dreams would have 1.5 billion more reasons to come true. Justice, Malcolm fought, sometimes wears a wine-stained suit. And hope songs like The Door Closing on hatred, opening on possibility.